Are you the dictator of a small desert nation? Are you having border problems, friends? Do you need just enough fighter to bomb those pesky freedom fighters, insurgents, shoot down airliners, and generally look cool at military parades? But you don't want your pilots, who are kind of educated, seeing the outside world with silly things like targeting pods and high-fidelity radars, which may put wrong think in their heads and cause them to defect? Well, have I got the product for you. The MIG-29 Project 912 NATO codename Fulcrum A. The first full-fidelity Red 4 fighter coming out of the Soviet Union. Tom Clancy and Captain Ramius are smiling down upon DCS World and its fans today. We need to discuss if the DCS MIG-29A Fulcrum is worth your hard-earned dollars. And I do apologize for not getting this video out sooner to you guys. The huge number of folks who were hyped for the aircraft actually crashed the DCS update servers. And I had to wait quite a while today to jump into her switch and dialed covered cockpit. But now that I've gotten to fly her quite a bit, I think we can dig into whether or not the MiG-29 is for you and worth the money. To avoid wasting your time here, guys, I definitely recommend the DCS MiG-29A Fulcrum. But let's dig deeper into why she's such an awesome jet and an even better DCS World product. There is absolutely no question that the MiG-29 Fulcrum is an absolutely iconic aircraft, and symbol of the Soviet Union and her client states, and their eventual collapse. And for some, that's going to be reason enough to pick up our beautiful rendition of the Fulcrum here in DCS World. And man guys, I have so many positive things to say about this product, so let's go ahead and jump in. I recently had a meeting with a representative from Eagle Dynamics after I had some questions about some various business practices and things, and I came away from that meeting with an overall impression that Eagle Dynamics is incredibly focused on listening to the DCS community, fan base, and their professional clientele on a wide range of topics, from maps to aircraft, to business practices, and much, much more. And I came away from this meeting feeling better about DCS and Eagle Dynamics than I ever have, especially post-RASBAN. And in my opinion, the DCS MiG-29A Fulcrum release is further proof that ED is moving in the right direction for the fans and players. I believe they learned a huge lesson from the release of the DCS F-16C Fighting Falcon and the AH-64D Apache, and have released the Fulcrum in a very, very complete state. And in my playing time so far, I have only run into one bug, and that was clearly stated in the release notes: a weirdly oscillating autopilot that was getting me into basically an autopilot-induced POI. And unfortunately, flying and fighting in the MiG-29 is so pilot-intensive. A working autopilot would be so nice to have. So hopefully that comes ASAP. But other than that, the MiG-29 module as a product feels so complete. And the fact that the Fulcrum is probably the least complex aircraft released by ED in a long time definitely helps with that. But there are a bunch of small auxiliary pieces of the product that really help with this feeling. A set of really beautiful loading and wallpaper screens, along with the best DCS menu music we've gotten probably ever, in my opinion, and a very detailed and well put together manual that will get you up and flying in absolutely no time. Even if the manual does have some pretty goofy and funny syntax that gives away that it was written in Russian and then translated to English. Russian to English translations always have this very funny, very unique syntax, if you know what I'm talking about. In the patch notes, ED stated that there were a number of refinements and issues that are known and being worked on. And before I was able to jump into the cockpit, I was admittedly slightly worried about some of these. These covered enhancements and issues with 3D models and artwork of the aircraft and its various systems, both internal and external, along with some visual abnormalities in multiplayer, which tend to kind of be par for the course upon release of a new aircraft. I'm looking at you, Corsair landing gear and Phantom air-to-air refueling door, that's for sure. But while these issues may drive some really nerdy rivet counters absolutely nuts, you'll never see or even notice these issues from the cockpit as you fly and fight against the wall of eagles on the Cold War Germany map, or complete your after takeoff checklist of gear up, flaps up, blow up over the Iraq map. And while some have worried a bit about the damage model, you can definitely still kill a Fulcrum as well as get killed flying the jets with lots of fire and explosion effects, even if your jet doesn't come fully apart just yet. I don't think that I can get across to you guys, the viewers, how good of a product the DCS MiG-29A Fulcrum is, and how awesome of a step in the right direction she is for Eagle Dynamics and the community as a whole. It definitely feels really good to be this positive about a new aircraft. And in my opinion, the biggest deciding factor as to whether or not you buy the MiG-29 comes down to the aircraft herself, as it really should be. And man, she is such a fun and interesting aircraft to fly and fight in. We really have nothing like it so far. And being a full fidelity aircraft, the experience is nothing like her Flaming Cliffs 3 sister. Okay guys, time for the nerdy stuff, because as a military aviation historian, this is my jam. The MiG-29A Fulcrum is really a product of the military doctrine of the Soviet Union and the limitations of Soviet technological capabilities at the time of her design. And this is the biggest deciding factor on whether or not this jet is for you. So let's add some context to the aircraft. She is truly an all-weather, point defense interceptor, designed for employment in austere conditions by Soviet frontal aviation units. These are aviation units who are really subordinated to the Red Army and Warsaw Pact ground forces, and MiG-29 units are really just an augmentation to the Soviet SAM network for chasing down low and fast-flying intruders, aardvarks, phantoms, and of course, flying frisbees. In the West, we really have nothing like Soviet frontal aviation. Maybe US Marine Corps aviation, but even that is kind of a bad equivalent. Most people tend to think of the MiG-29 as being an Eastern equivalent to the F-16 Fighting Falcon. But in her original design concept, she's actually far more like an air-to-air focused Aviate Harrier in a lot of ways. And in what we in the West would call the offensive counter-air role, she was designed to take off from austere and unexpected locations, to rise and challenge the NATO Wall of Eagles, and ideally punch a hole through the NATO standing cap to allow her bigger sisters, the Su-27 and MiG-31, to zoom through and shoot down the NATO E-3 and E-2 AWACS aircraft operating behind the lines of the Third World War. And of course, because she was designed for the VVS's frontal aviation units, she retains some basic air-to-ground capability for assisting the various versions of floggers, fitters, frogfoots, and fencers in the close air support and strike role. And don't worry about using air-to-ground munitions, it's way easier than the manual actually makes it out to be, and you can be way more accurate the more simple you are when employing these air-to-ground munitions from the Fulcrum. Because the MiG-29 is a product of this highly specialized doctrine, and a product of her time and place, she is really unlike anything else we have here in DCS World. She isn't a jack-of-all-trades strike fighter like a Phantom or Hornet, or even the long lance of the F-15 Eagle. She's a close-range K-bar fighting knife. The Fulcrum can take BVR shots with her two AA-10 Alamos, but she is really designed to use those incredibly fast Alamos to make up for her weak radar and associated avionics to put enemy aircraft on the defensive, so she can then close with and merge with the NATO Eagles, Phantoms, Hornets, and Vipers, where her real strength lies. The MiG-29A's massive thrust-to-weight ratio of her two RD-33 engines, paired with the helmet-mounted sight and AA-11 Archer missile, make the Fulcrum an absolute within-visual range monster, capable of easily defeating the best NATO fighters out there, if you can survive to the merge. And that is the big if. If it's 1985 and World War III is breaking out, and you're flying against the NATO Wall of Eagles, and Tom Clancy is the game master, you'll probably make it to the merge and then end up on top. If it's 2007, and you're defending al-Assad's nuclear reactor over Syria, and you're up against a wall of Israeli Ra'ams and Sufas, without the massive Soviet doctrinal infrastructure behind you, you have absolutely zero hope of making it to the merge. While US Navy and Marine Corps pilots were shocked by the MiG-29A, her HMS, and Archers in the Red October exercises, and considered her an extremely dangerous opponent, they, along with the German Fulcrum pilots themselves, noted how lacking the Fulcrum is in the BVR environment and her extreme pilot workload. This is due to the MiG-29 lacking basically any HOTAS controls, and her flight characteristics, along with her non-automated weapons and avionics systems, causing the pilot to expend far more brain cells on flying the jet and working her systems, and less on the overall tactical picture of the battle space itself. I would have to say that the average DCS F-4E Phantom II pilot, with her many TSOs and upgrades, will have better overall situational awareness than a DCS MiG-29A pilot. But a highly skilled DCS pilot, paired with an experienced GCI or AIC, adhering to Soviet doctrine, will be an extremely dangerous opponent, especially one-on-one. While it may sound like I'm dunking on the MiG-29A Fulcrum and the VVS itself, I am just adding context to the aircraft, her system, and her peculiarities. She is a system of systems designed to operate within a system, and this is very different from the NATO strike fighters and NATO doctrine we have all been steeped in DCS World, that relies on pilot independence and decision-making skills combined with an aircraft developed to play to these strengths. Long story short here, guys, the DCS MiG-29A Fulcrum is, in my opinion, the best Day 1 early access release from Eagle Dynamics in a long time, if not ever, from a product and consumer perspective. And I have nothing but praise for ED with this release and the state of the aircraft as a product. It is so awesome that the aircraft itself, with her warts and all, shines through in the release instead of issues, bugs, and problems. And with 2 out of the 3 most recent releases, the Phantom, Corsair, and Fulcrum, being relatively issue-free, I think this is an awesome positive trend for DCS World and the fanbase. With the release of the DCS MIG-29A Fulcrum, it seems that Red 4 is rising, and it's getting colder and colder in DCS World. And I hope that ED sees the Fulcrum as a success and makes DCS even colder and redder going forward. I cannot recommend the DCS MiG-29A Fulcrum enough, for both fans of the red side as well as for Blue Force pilots who want to understand the enemy even better. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and big thanks to Eagle Dynamics and all the devs over there for your hard work on this jet. So guys, please leave a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Fly safe out there and enjoy this beautiful game. And good luck over Germany, comrade. It's time for me to go fly the DCS MiG-29 some more, reread Red Storm Rising, and go watch The Hunt for Red October. Thanks guys.